All right, that didn't take the weird, crinkly, echoey sound, but I'm going to continue with chapter 42. You're the first finisher, Max, said Annika. It's only logical that you pick your own project. Just make sure it involves robots, said Klaus. Why? Asked Hannah. Max is supposed to do good for humans, not machines. We have several suggestions we'd like to make, added Professor Wong. After all, that's why I was summoned here from the University of Berkeley in California. I flew in from Colorado, added one of the adult engineers. I have some ideas about water shortages. Max did her best to block out all the voices and advice swirling around her in the conference room like a swarm of angry bees. She walked up to the center table and studied the glowing trouble spots on the holographic globe as it slowly rotated on its axis. What's going on here? She asked, pointing to a throbbing red blotch in Africa. That's the Democratic Republic of the Congo, said Tisa, the girl from Kenya. We would love to bring electricity to some of the remote villages in that area, said Carl. It would do a lot of good, said Isabel. The DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, has been rebuilding its power grid as part of the war-torn country's reconstruction since 2003, said another one of the professors in the room. Only 9% of Congo's 70 million people have access to electricity. Most of that is in urban areas, said Carl. Only 1% of the natural rural areas have electricity. Nope, only 1% of the rural areas have electricity. They're totally off-grid. My father is interested in investing in the Congo, said Tisa. But the villages lack electricity. It is hard for him to convince his board of directors to pour money into them. Well, said Max, as she slowly worked a new idea in her head. What if we could electrify them without a power grid? What if a village could be energy self-sufficient and the national government didn't have to build power plants or run transmission lines or worry about creating utility companies to manage it all? And what if unicorns had feathers? Said Klaus. Max just ignored him. She was deep in thought. Lack of access to electricity was surely hurting Congolese people, their health, their education, and their money-making potential. That's why they send their children into those mines, she thought. She stared at the slowly turning globe, remembering that news story she'd read about kids as young as 7, quote, working in perilous conditions in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where they mined cobalt that ended up in first world smartphones, cars, and computers. None of the Congolese people had those things. The children were being paid $1 a day to do hard, back-breaking work, she remembered. And then she remembered something that hadn't mattered much to her when she read it the first time. They were also helping make a shadowy international business consortium called the Core very, very rich. The Core. The bad guys. The ones who'd come after her, first in New York and then in Jerusalem. Maybe it was time to take the battle to them, or at the very least, cut off their revenue streams or stop the flow of money. Those villages without electricity, she said, are they anywhere near the cobalt mines? Carl and Isabel both nodded. Some, yes, said Isabel. The ones run by those other guys? An international mining consortium runs the operation, says Carl. And yes, they have very powerful, very well-connected friends. The way he said it made Max knew Carl meant the Core. Ugh. Well, if we bring low-cost electricity to rural villages, said Max, then maybe the people would be less dependent on the mining industry. Maybe they could generate income in some other way. They could, said Tisa. I will talk to my father. If we bring electricity to a village, I am sure he will bring an investment. He might give us a deadline, though. Father is focused on results. And we'll give them to him, said Max, her runaway enthusiasm growing stronger. If we can bring a village electricity and new hope, maybe they wouldn't have to tear their families apart and send their children down into the mines to pick through rocks with their bare hands. So what do? Wondered Vihan. How do we bring electricity somewhere that doesn't even have power lines? Maybe we don't need power lines, or even power plants, said Max. Here we go with unicorns again, groused Klaus, rolling his eyes. But Max could see the answer so clearly. She could see well-lit homes, less pollution, new industries, and it all started with Albert Einstein's 1905 theory of photoelectric effect. It was the theory that won him the Nobel Prize, not the more famous theory of relativity. The thought experiment was so vivid in her mind that she didn't realize everyone in the room was staring at her, waiting for her to actually say something. What do you want to do, Max? Asked Isabel. What's the project? Oh, right, it's simple, actually. We'll help one village generate electricity, utilizing photoelectrons bouncing off a surface. We'll show them how to harness the energy in a beam of sunlight. Solar power! Shouted Siobhan. Exactly. Did you know that's what she was talking about? I think I did.